how do health disparities late in life kind of impact economic outcomes. So it's fairly well established now that things like wealth and income, if you look at older individuals or older households, that there's large gaps in these sort of economic outcomes like income. And that the income gaps that exist among older households is significantly larger now than it was 20, 30 years ago. So that was our first curiosity. What is this relationship between late life health and how does it spill over into economics? So we were really interested in using data that followed people over time, right? And we thought that just looking at kind of a cross-sectional data, right, at one point in time, you're missing some of the stuff that's being persistent across time. So most of the data we've used for like this series of studies have come from the health and retirement study, which is a longitudinal data, right? It follows the multiple cohorts of older individuals kind of over the last 30 years. And so our thought was, well, one thing that we think in this particular age group people really care about is their health, right? And their kind of longevity. And so we thought, okay, a reasonable first step here to try to move sort of beyond just the basic economic indicators was to include sort of health and longevity measures as well. We found that if you look at, for example, wealth inequality, that it tended to underpredict the overall inequality among the older population, right? Based on our broader notion of well-being that incorporates not just economics, but also health. What we find was that if you look across time, that almost all of those measures sort of underestimate the growth in inequality that we've seen in the older population in the US over the last decades. As if we could target policy interventions earlier in the life cycle, like childhood or even adulthood, those could have lasting impacts into lowering these well-being gaps that we see at later ages. I mean, we're trying to, hopefully provide evidence that's informative to policy. It's going to suggest some policies might be more effective than others, or might have potentially higher benefits than others, or higher benefits than previously thought, right? And so the goal is to provide evidence-based research that can inform policy. Not necessarily trying to advocate for one types of policies versus others necessarily, right? We just want to provide evidence-based that can inform the best policy decisions.